The power flickered for the third time that morning, making the security monitors reset with a loud click. Elena sighed and gave the side of the cash register a thump, coaxing it back to life. Behind her, a cooler hummed like it might give out any minute. Everything in the store felt like it was holding on by a thread. It was a Tuesday, the slow kind. Gray skies, half the city dragging itself back to work after a holiday weekend. Elena stood behind the counter of her corner store in a hoodie 2 sizes too big, fingers curled around a lukewarm cup of coffee that had been reheated twice already. The clock above the cigarettes read 10:42 a.m., and her first customer of the hour was still just browsing. Bills were stacked under the register past due notices, reminders, a shut-off warning from the gas company. On top of that, her daughter Maya's surgery deposit still unpaid. She was $6,300 short, and time was running out. The hospital wouldn't even book the operating room until the first payment cleared. Every day that passed, Elena felt like she was losing a little more of her grip. She glanced at the old picture taped to the register, Maya, 6 years old, blowing out birthday candles. Now she was 9, bright and stubborn, with a congenital heart defect that could suddenly stop her in the middle of a school day. Elena felt the pressure behind her eyes again and forced herself to look away. There was no time for tears. Not now. That's when she saw him. He stood near the front window, thin and motionless, his shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear. His hoodie was soaked at the shoulders and fraying at the cuffs. In one hand, he clutched a phone. It dangled like dead weight from a cracked charging cable that wasn't plugged into anything. Elena watched him for a few seconds. He wasn't panhandling or pacing. He just looked tired. Not tired like someone who needed sleep, tired like someone who had stopped expecting the world to show him mercy. She stepped out from behind the counter, carrying a mop bucket toward the curb. As she opened the door, the bell jingled and the cold slipped in. He turned quickly, startled. "Sorry," he mumbled. "Didn't mean to bother anyone." "You need something?" she asked. He hesitated, eyes darting behind her to the outlet near the lotto machine. "I just need to charge my phone. Shelter's supposed to call me today about a bed." Elena looked at the phone. The screen was black. It could have been a prop for all she knew. 15 minutes, she said. "Sit near the wall. Don't block the aisle." He blinked, surprised. "Thank you. Seriously." She didn't answer. Just went back inside and pretended to organize candy bars until she heard him settle onto the milk crate near the outlet. He plugged in, set the phone in his lap, and stared at the floor like he didn't want to make eye contact with reality. The next customer walked in, an older man who bought a lottery ticket and a soda without noticing anything unusual. Elena rang him up, gave him his change, and kept one eye on the stranger in the corner. 15 minutes passed. The man stood, unplugged quietly, and walked out without a word. Elena expected that to be the end of it, but he came back. 2 days later, he showed up just before noon. Same hoodie, same posture, and stood near the door until she nodded. He made no demands, just quietly took his spot, charged his phone, and left again. After the third visit, she started keeping half a sandwich in the mini fridge. After the fifth, she started leaving a chair by the outlet. He never said more than a handful of words. Didn't ask for food, or money, or pity. He read a dog-eared paperback most days while his phone sipped electricity. He told her his name, once Jared. She told him hers when he asked, but they never used each other's names out loud. And that was it. A silent understanding. A truce between two people who both had too many problems to fix each other's but could, for a few minutes, make things slightly less awful. Then came the day she forgot he was there. It was late, close to closing, and she was on the phone with the billing department at St. Mary's. The call had gone nowhere, like all the others. "No, I can't pay the deposit today," she said, keeping her voice low but tight. "I've already maxed out 2 credit cards. I'm working every shift I can. Just please don't push her off the surgery list. She doesn't have time to wait." She rubbed her temple and looked down. "Yes, I understand. Thank you." She hung up, biting her lip hard enough to leave a mark. That's when she saw him, half hidden in the corner, phone still plugged in, watching her with the kind of stillness that made her heart stutter. She blinked. "You're still here," He stood up, eyes down. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I was just finishing up. Before she could say anything, he was gone. And then just like that, he stopped coming. The chair stayed by the outlet. The sandwich went stale. A part of her wanted to believe he'd gotten the call from the shelter, that he had a roof over his head and didn't need this place anymore. But another part knew better. She told herself not to care. She had enough to worry about. But each morning she looked up just a little too quickly when the doorbell rang. And each evening, when she turned off the lights, she left the chair exactly where it was. Just in case. Days passed, then weeks. Jared didn't return. Elena told herself it didn't matter. People came and went. Maybe he got lucky. Maybe the shelter had space. Maybe he found a friend with a couch, a lead on a job, something better than cold coffee and a corner of her crumbling store. But the truth sat heavy in her chest. She started noticing things, like how early it got dark now. How the wind felt meaner at night. She thought about that frayed hoodie, those worn shoes, and his phone always running on empty. The chair stayed by the outlet. She didn't move it, couldn't bring herself to. Some nights, she left a sandwich in the fridge anyway, just in case. Turkey and mustard. No tomato, the one he ate without complaint. No note, no label. Just there, waiting, like her. Every time the bell above the door jingled, her heart kicked up, just a little, but it was always someone else. The regulars noticed her mood. Benny from the laundromat asked if everything was okay. She smiled and said she was just tired. The truth was harder to explain, that someone she barely knew had carved out space in her routine, that his quiet presence had made her feel less alone in the slow, unraveling days, that the hole he left behind was bigger than she expected. Then, 2 weeks after his disappearance, the store was broken into. It happened overnight. The thief smashed the side window with a rock, crawled through, and tried to pry open the cigarette cabinet. They didn't get much, just a handful of lighters and maybe $20 from the tip jar. But the mess was bad. Glass everywhere. The register ripped open. Stock knocked to the floor. The police showed up 2 hours late, took photos, nodded, and promised a report. Elena didn't bother filing an insurance claim. The deductible was more than the damage. What got to her wasn't the break-in, it was how it shook Maya. That morning, her daughter wrapped her arms around Elena's waist and asked in a tiny voice, "Is someone going to hurt us?" "No, baby," Elena said, stroking her hair. "It's just stuff. We're okay." But later, when she was alone, Elena cried in the back room, not just from fear or frustration, but from the emptiness of the chair in the corner. The one person she'd quietly come to count on was gone, and the place felt colder without him. She stopped making sandwiches, stopped looking up every time the door opened, stopped waiting. 2 miles across town, Jared was working 12-hour shifts at a garage that didn't care where he'd slept the night before. It started when he'd been scavenging through a trash bin behind a closed mechanic shop and found a dirty, dog-eared hydraulics manual. The diagrams were familiar. He'd taken a few trade classes years ago, before life unraveled. He'd been reading under a busted streetlight when Vic, the garage owner, pulled up. "You trying to learn, or just looking smart for the pigeons?" Vic had grunted. "I just like engines," Jared replied. That led to 5 minutes of conversation, followed by a test fix and old alternator. He passed. Vic didn't ask for a resume or references, just told him to show up the next day. The garage was rough but honest. Jared swept floors, fetched tools, sorted parts. He slept on a cot in the back room, ate vending machine dinners, and scrubbed oil from under his nails every night with powdered soap. He didn't have time to charge his phone anymore. But it didn't matter, no one was calling. Still, at night, after the others had left, he pulled it out. It still had Elena's number saved from the time she let him use it to call the shelter. He hadn't meant to disappear. He just needed to go. Needed to do something. When he overheard her talking about her daughter's surgery, something inside him flipped. He knew what it felt like to be helpless, to watch someone you love suffer and have no way to fix it. So he made a decision. He'd save everything, every tip, every dollar. He'd work until his hands gave out if he had to. And when he had enough to matter, he'd come back. By the end of the month, Elena had scraped together $1,000 from family, friends, and begging the church down the street. It wasn't close to what she needed, but it kept the hospital from dropping them off the wait list. She stopped talking about the surgery around Maya. It made her daughter anxious. And Elena couldn't fake optimism anymore. Hope had become a luxury she couldn't afford. One night, as she was closing up, she found herself talking aloud to the empty store. "Where did you go?" she asked no one. No answer. Of course, just the soft hum of the cooler and the buzz of a flickering light. Then she saw the chair again, still sitting there, waiting. She almost moved it. Almost. But instead, she left it. Something told her the story wasn't finished yet. The first real snowfall hit in mid-December. Thick, wet flakes coated the sidewalk, turning to slush where the plows missed. Elena watched the front of the store turn silver and white, the city dulling to a hush. Inside, the heater wheezed through the vents like a tired old man trying to stay awake. Business had slowed to a crawl. People only came in for basics: canned soup, toilet paper, cough drops. Most of them rushed out again, avoiding eye contact, wrapped in layers that blocked the wind but not the weight of winter. It had been 6 weeks since she'd seen Jared. She still thought about him, not obsessively, but like a half-finished sentence. The kind of thought that interrupted itself when she was sweeping or counting out quarters for a supplier. She kept expecting him to walk through the door, shake snow from his hoodie, plug in his phone, and give her that quiet, grateful nod. But nothing. Not a text, not a call, not even a missed message. Maybe he'd left town. Maybe he'd finally gotten a break and didn't want to look back. She couldn't blame him. Still, she caught herself checking the sidewalk outside more than she meant to. Jared hadn't forgotten her, not for a second. He was still at the garage, working under Vic, who turned out to be a lot like the engines he fixed. Tough exterior, precise when it counted, and mean if you didn't respect the pressure. Jared showed up early, left late, and never said no to a task, no matter how grimy or heavy. He didn't sleep much, but he didn't need to. Every time his arms ached or his knuckles split, he remembered Elena's voice on the phone. "She doesn't have time to wait." That sentence looped in his mind like a ticking clock. He started tracking his savings with quiet obsession. He bought nothing, spent nothing, lived on ramen and vending snacks. Vic eventually noticed and handed him a battered envelope of cash one night. "You earned this," Vic said. "Don't get used to sleeping in the back forever." Jared nodded, pocketed the money, and said nothing about what it was really for. He kept adding to the envelope. Each night, he laid the bills flat, counted them, and smoothed them into a clean stack. He didn't know how much a surgery cost, but he figured something was better than nothing. Back at the store, Elena was slipping. The late nights, the stress, the weight of pretending in front of Maya, it was catching up to her. One night, after putting her daughter to bed, Elena fell asleep behind the counter. Her forehead left a mark on the sales log. She jolted awake at 1:30 to the buzzing hum of the beer fridge and the sound of wind rattling the back door. She checked the locks twice before going home. The next day, Maya asked her if Santa could bring her a heart that didn't hurt anymore. Elena smiled. Santa's working on it. Then she excused herself to the restroom, locked the door, and sobbed into a hand towel. 2 weeks before Christmas, a letter came from the hospital. Final notice. The surgery deposit was still short. They'd kept Maya on the schedule longer than policy allowed, but they couldn't wait anymore. If Elena didn't make a payment by the end of the week, her daughter would be removed from the list. She stared at the paper until her vision blurred, folded it, unfolded it, folded it again. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She called the number Jared had once used to ring the store. It rang 3 times before going to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. What could she say? Just wanted to know if you were alive, if you're okay, if you forgot us. She hung up. For the first time in a long while, she moved the chair away from the outlet, swept under it, put it in the back, next to the mop bucket. Done hoping. Jared saw the missed call on his phone during a late lunch break, sitting in the corner of the garage next to a busted vending machine. He didn't recognize the number right away, but then it clicked her. His stomach dropped. He stared at the screen for a long time before opening his locker. He pulled out the envelope, now thick and worn, rubber banded shut, and flipped through the bills. It still wasn't everything, but it was enough. Enough to matter. He took the rest of his shift off. Vic didn't ask questions. That night, Jared counted every bill again. He straightened the corners. He pulled out a sheet of clean white paper and scrawled 3 words in blocky, careful handwriting. For her daughter, he slid the note into the envelope, sealed it, and wrapped the band around twice for good measure. Then he sat in silence. For the first time in weeks, his hands weren't greasy. His phone was fully charged. He checked the store's hours online. Still open until 9. He stood, put on a clean jacket, and walked out into the night. At 8:57 p.m., Elena was closing out the register when the door opened. The bell jingled. She didn't look up at first. "We're about to close," she said automatically. Then she saw him. Same face, but different. Cleaner. Healthier. He looked taller somehow, like someone who'd come back from a long way off. He walked up to the counter and placed the envelope down gently. "What is this?" she asked. He slid it forward. "It's hers now." She stared at it, then at him. "I don't understand." He met her eyes, steady and soft. "You let me charge my phone," he said. "No one else did." Jared turned to leave. "Wait," Elena said. He paused at the door, backlit by the buzzing neon sign that flickered in the window like a dying star. "Tell me what this is," she said, still clutching the envelope. "I told you," he said, voice low. "It's for Maya." I mean how she stepped out from behind the counter, the envelope still in her hands, heavier than it looked. "Where did this come from?" Jared hesitated, then nodded, almost to himself, like he'd been preparing for this part. "You remember that day you were on the phone with the hospital?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "You didn't know I was listening. You were behind the register, saying she couldn't wait." His hands were in his jacket pockets, shoulders hunched like old times. That hit me. I know what it's like to watch someone you care about get sick and feel like you can't do anything about it. Elena leaned back against the counter, gripping the edge like it might anchor her. "My brother," Jared continued. "When I was 16, cancer. We couldn't afford treatment. He died in a folding chair at a clinic that closed the next month." His voice didn't crack, but his eyes drifted for a second, like he'd gone back in time. "I swore if I ever got a second chance, I'd use it for someone who could still be saved." He looked back at her now. "You helped me when no one else would. You gave me power. Literally." She gave a short, shocked laugh at that. "I mean it." He said, "Most places wouldn't even let me stand outside. You let me sit, charge up, warm up, and you didn't look at me like I was less." "I didn't do much," she said. "You did enough. Enough that when I heard about Maya, I knew what I had to do." "And what did you do?" she asked. "Rob a bank. Garage job, small place. Owner took a chance on me. I worked every hour I could get, lived in a back room, ate like trash, didn't spend a dime." He pointed at the envelope. "That's everything I have." Elena's breath caught. She looked down at the envelope, the corner of the folded paper inside peeking out. "I don't know if it's enough," he said, "but it's something. And it's real." She opened the envelope again, pulled out the note for her daughter. The bills were crisp, counted, tightly packed. It was more than she'd ever seen at once. "Why me?" she asked. "Why not? I don't know. Use it to get your own place. Start over." "I already did start over," he said, "because of you. This is just me finishing what you started." They stood there in silence for a moment. Not awkward, just heavy with something true. "I don't know how to thank you," she finally said. "You don't have to," Jared said. "Just get her well." That night, Elena didn't sleep. She stayed at the kitchen table, the envelope open beside her, calculator in hand, receipts spread like puzzle pieces. It wasn't the full amount the hospital wanted, but it was enough to call them in the morning and say, "I can pay the deposit." It was enough to keep Maya's name on the list, enough to schedule a date, enough to hope again. Maya came into the kitchen around 3 rubbing her eyes. "Mom, why are you still up?" "I got some good news, honey." "What is it?" "You're going to get your surgery." Maya blinked. "For real." Elena knelt down and wrapped her arms around her daughter. "For real." 2 days later, the hospital called to confirm the booking. January 17th, first opening of the new year. Pre-op paperwork to follow. Bring her in a day early for prep. Elena could barely keep her hands steady as she wrote the details on a sticky note. After she hung up, she reached for her phone and texted the last number Jared had used. "She's scheduled. You did this. Thank you doesn't cut it." He didn't reply right away. A few hours later, one came in. "Let me know when she's out. I'll be nearby." Jared kept working at the garage, though Vic noticed something different. "You get religion or something?" Vic asked one morning when Jared cleaned every wrench and bolt bin without being asked. "Nah," Jared said. "Just saw something good happen. Makes you want to be better." Vic grunted. "Don't go soft on me." Jared smiled and didn't say a word. He didn't tell Vic about the girl with the broken heart, or her mother with the tired eyes, or the chair by the outlet. Some things weren't meant to be explained, just lived. On the day of the surgery, Elena and Maya arrived at the hospital with a small suitcase, a worn paperback, and 2 sets of pajamas. Maya was nervous but trying to be brave. In the waiting room, Elena sat alone, hands clasped together like a prayer she didn't know how to say. She looked at her phone. No new messages, no missed calls, but she knew he was out there, waiting like she once did. The surgery took 5 hours. For Elena, it felt like 5 years. She sat in the waiting room the entire time, legs crossed, then uncrossed, then crossed again. The coffee machine buzzed and coughed out bitter sludge she didn't drink. She scrolled through her phone just to stay moving, reread old texts, stared at a photo of Maya at the lake last summer, hands in the air, life in her face. No one else was in the room, just her and the silence. When the surgeon finally stepped through the double doors and called her name, she stood so fast her knees popped. "It went well," he said, smiling. "She's stable. She's in recovery now. You'll be able to see her soon." Elena didn't realize she was crying until the doctor handed her a tissue. "She's okay?" she asked. "She's okay," he said. "You got her here in time." Jared was parked 3 blocks away, sitting in the driver's seat of Vic's old pickup truck. He hadn't told Elena he'd be coming, but he couldn't stay away. He hadn't been inside a hospital in nearly a decade. The last time, he'd left with his brother's backpack and a heart full of guilt. This time, it was different. This time, someone was going to live. He didn't move for almost an hour, just watched the building, watched the doors, waited for a sign. When it didn't come, he pulled out his phone and typed, "She okay?" He hovered over the send button, then deleted the text. This wasn't his moment. It was theirs. He pulled away from the curb slowly, the tires crunching the slush as the city blurred around him. 3 days later, Maya was home. She moved slowly, like her body was made of glass, but she smiled more. Her color was better, her breathing easier, her laughter lighter. "You're like Iron Man now," Elena joked one night, tucking the blankets around her. "Except no armor," Maya said, "just the fix." Elena kissed her forehead. "Still my hero." The recovery would take months, but she was here, healing, alive. And every day Elena passed that envelope on the dresser, she remembered none of this would have happened without Jared. Back at the store, Elena reopened slowly short hours, mostly mornings. The regulars returned, asking about Maya, slipping extra bills in the tip jar when they thought she wasn't looking. And then, one rainy afternoon, Jared walked through the door again. She looked up from the register and froze. "You came back. I said I'd be nearby." They stood there for a second, not speaking. Then she smiled. She made it. "I figured," he said, quietly. "You didn't call screaming." "She's home," Elena said, resting, laughing again. Jared exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. "I owe you." "You don't," he interrupted. "I do," she insisted, more than I can explain. He looked around the store, at the shelves, the flickering cooler light, the floor he once swept with his eyes. "Looks the same." "It is, but it isn't." She gestured to the outlet. "You changed things." He gave a half smile. "You ever think about getting that chair back out?" She nodded toward the corner. "I keep it in the back now, but it's always ready." He laughed. It was the first time she'd heard it. Rough but real. "Coffee?" she asked. "I'll never say no to coffee." They sat in silence at the back of the store, just like before. 2 old chairs, a paper cup between them, the hum of electricity still in the walls. "What now?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "But whatever it is, I know I'm not alone. You never were." She looked at him then, not just the man who'd once needed a plug, but the man who'd become a lifeline. And for the first time in months, Elena didn't feel like she was on the edge of breaking. She felt grounded, because someone had believed she mattered enough to come back. The envelope stayed in her dresser. She couldn't bring herself to spend the last few bills. Not yet. It felt sacred somehow, proof that kindness circles back, even when you least expect it. When Maya asked one night, "Why did he help us?" Elena said, "Because once I helped him." "But how?" "I let him charge his phone." Maya blinked. "That's it?" Elena smiled. That was enough. Outside the store, the snow melted. The sidewalk was wet with new beginnings. And just inside the door, the wall outlet waited quiet. Reliable. Always open to anyone with a phone, a story, or a second chance. The night before the operation, Elena didn't sleep. She lay beside Maya, listening to her daughter breathe a soft, steady rhythm that hadn't always been steady. Every wheeze, every skipped beat had haunted her for years. Now, it might finally end, or at least change. For the first time, the word hope felt like something she could touch. "Mom," Maya whispered in the dark. "You awake?" "I am now," Elena said, smiling. "I'm scared." Elena shifted to face her. "Me too." They stayed there like that, two sets of tired eyes wide open in the dark. "What if something goes wrong?" Maya asked. "It won't," Elena said, even though that wasn't a promise she could make. "But what if it does?" Elena pulled her close. "Then we deal with it together, like we always do." Maya didn't reply right away. Then, "Do you think that man will be thinking about me tomorrow?" Elena knew who she meant. "I think he already is," she said. They arrived at the hospital just after sunrise. The sky was the kind of pale gray that made everything feel colder. Elena clutched the paperwork in one hand and Maya's small fingers in the other. They checked in. Nurses in blue scrubs spoke in calming tones. Clipboards passed from hand to hand. Maya changed into a gown that looked too big for her tiny frame. In the prep room, the anesthesiologist explained the process in gentle terms. Maya listened like she was memorizing the details. Elena just nodded. Her mind was foggy with fear and paperwork and prayers she hadn't said in years. When they wheeled Maya out, she followed alongside until the double doors stopped her. "Love you," she said, choking back the urge to break. Maya waved. "Tell the man thanks." Elena blinked fast. "I will." The waiting room was full of hushed voices and vending machine clatter, but all of it felt far away. Elena sat alone, untouched coffee cooling in her hands, knees bouncing in time with a heartbeat she couldn't hear anymore. 5 hours, that's how long they said it might take. Every second was a wait. She checked her phone again. Nothing. The screen was blank, but she kept checking anyway. Across town, Jared sat outside the garage, watching the clouds move slow and heavy across the sky. He'd asked Vic for the day off, didn't say why. He had the envelope in the glove box. Not the money, just the note. For her daughter, he pulled it out, stared at the creased paper. His hand hovered over the dashboard for a second, then set the note down gently. He didn't know what he expected to feel: relief, pride, peace. Instead, he just felt still, not empty, not full, just balanced. Like the weight he'd carried so long had finally found somewhere to go. He didn't go to the hospital, didn't want to make it about him. But he kept the phone close, just in case. At hour 3, the surgeon sent a nurse with an update. Everything's progressing. No complications so far. Elena nodded, but didn't smile. At hour 5, the doctor himself returned. The gown and mask were off. His eyes were calm. "She's in recovery. Everything went as planned." Elena didn't cry this time. She just exhaled, like releasing years of held breath. "She's really okay," she asked. "She's going to need time, but yes, the worst part is over." Elena pressed a hand to her heart. It beat fast but steady. "Can I see her?" Maya was pale and groggy, wrapped in blankets and machines. But when her eyes opened, she smiled. "Hey," Elena said softly. "Hey," Maya murmured. Still here, always. There were wires, monitors, beeps, but they didn't scare Elena the way they used to, because Maya was here, and the battle had turned. Back at the store 2 days later, Elena reopened for half a shift. The shelves were half-stocked. The coffee machine sputtered, but customers came. Word had spread. People left with more than they bought. Around lunchtime, she checked her phone. No new messages. So she sent one. "She made it through. You saved her." She waited. An hour, 2, then a message pinged back. "Tell her she's the strongest one in the room." She stared at it, then typed, "She wants to see you. When she's ready, will you come?" This time, no reply, but she knew he would. 3 days later, Jared stepped into the store. Maya was sitting behind the counter. pale but smiling, feet dangling from the stool. "You must be the guy," she said. He grinned, guilty. "You helped me. Why?" He didn't answer at first. "Then because someone once helped me. And I wanted to be the kind of person who didn't forget." Maya tilted her head. "That's pretty cool. Not as cool as you surviving heart surgery." She smiled, then reached behind the counter and pulled out a folded paper her hospital wristband. She handed it to him. "For you," she said, "so you don't forget either." He took it like it was made of glass. "I won't," he said. In the corner, near the outlet, the chair was back in place, waiting for whoever needed it next. And for the first time in a long time, everyone in that little store knew what it meant to be part of something bigger than luck. They were part of a spark, the kind that lights the dark and stays burning, long after the storm. 3 months later, spring came early. It started with the trees on Maple Avenue, bare for so long, suddenly crowned with pale green. Then the birds returned. Then the sidewalks, thawed and full of life again, felt less like a place to survive and more like a place to move forward. At the corner store, Elena had started leaving the door open on warm afternoons. She played old jazz through a Bluetooth speaker, brewed strong coffee, and stocked the shelves with the same quiet purpose she always had, only now. There was more ease in her body, less worry behind her eyes. Business was better, not booming, but steady. Regulars came and went with familiar smiles. Some asked about Maya every week. "She's stronger," Elena would say. "Still resting, still healing, but better." Maya came back to the store in April. The first time, she wore her backpack like a badge of honor and walked carefully, one step at a time, like someone learning to trust their legs again. Jared was there, replacing light bulbs for Elena. He didn't look up until he heard the bell chime and Maya's voice call out, "Hey, light bulb guy." He turned, eyebrows raised. "Is that my name now?" "You tell me." She grinned. "You fix more than the lights." She walked straight to the counter, climbed onto the stool, and swung her legs like she used to. Elena handed her a juice box without a word. It was a ritual now. Maya looked around. "Chair's still there?" Jared nodded. "Always will be." "Anyone use it?" "Not yet." "Good," she said. "Save it for someone who really needs it." That evening, Elena sat on the rooftop of their apartment, a mug of tea between her palms, her daughter beside her wrapped in a blanket. "Mom," Maya said suddenly, "do you think things happen for a reason?" Elena considered the question. She used to believe that. Then life wore her down. The bills, the heartbreak, the waiting lists. Then the man with the broken phone and the quiet way of seeing people. "Maybe not for a reason," she said, "but maybe we get to decide what we do with what happens." Maya nodded like she understood more than she should. "Do you think he'll stay?" she asked. Elena smiled. "I think he already did." Jared never made a big deal out of it, but he kept coming back. Some days to help, some days just to sit, occasionally to eat Elena's suspiciously good chili and argue over crossword clues with Maya. He wasn't looking for a thank you anymore. He'd already gotten something bigger, a place where he belonged. Vic offered him a better shift at the garage, even floated the idea of co-signing a lease for a small apartment nearby. Jared said yes to the hours, no to the apartment for now. The room in the back still suited him fine. The envelope was long gone, but the note for her daughter was still taped inside his locker. He'd see it every morning, just to remind himself why he did what he did. Not for applause, not for redemption, just because it was right. One rainy day, a teenage boy came into the store soaked, shivering, holding a phone with a shattered screen. "Sorry," he said. "I'm not trying to ask for money. I'm waiting on a call. My mom's sick and the hospital said they'd update me today," and he didn't finish. Elena didn't need him to. She pointed to the chair by the outlet. "Plug in," she said. "Take your time." The boy blinked. "Are you sure?" Jared, mopping up a spill nearby, looked over and nodded. "We're sure." The boy sat, clutching his phone like a lifeline. Maya passed him a granola bar. Elena poured him hot chocolate from the back, and for a while, no one said anything. But the store felt full again, not just with people, but with purpose. Later that night, as Jared was locking up, he paused at the light switch. "Elena," he said, "you ever think about painting the wall behind that outlet?" She looked at it, the scuffed patch of drywall stained with years of fingerprints and coffee spills. "What did you have in mind?" He thought for a second. "Something simple. A sign, maybe. Just so people know." "Know what?" "That this place doesn't turn people away. Elena smiled. You paint it. I'll supply the brush. 2 weeks later, the wall had a fresh coat of pale blue. Above the outlet, painted in clean, simple letters. Need to charge, need a minute, sit down. You're safe here. Underneath, in smaller print. For Maya, for all of us. The chair stayed there, sometimes empty, sometimes occupied, always ready. And the outlet, it kept humming, steady and quiet. Just like the people who'd built something out of nothing more than kindness, power, and a second chance. That corner store never made the news. No viral video, no headline. But if you walked by, you'd see something different. A mother, a daughter, a man with a past and a purpose, and a chair by the wall waiting for someone to believe in again. And every time it buzzed to life with someone else's low battery, the circle completed itself all over again. Full circle. Every time. This story reminds us that small acts of kindness can ripple out further than we imagine. Letting someone charge a phone might seem insignificant, but it can be the beginning of a chain reaction that changes lives. It teaches us that no one is too small to help, and no help is too small to matter. Jared's transformation shows that dignity and second chances can restore more than just a life, they can restore purpose. And Elena's simple act of humanity proves that empathy doesn't need fanfare to be powerful. When we choose compassion over indifference, we create spaces like that chair by the outlet where healing begins and hope finds a place to sit. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Your time and attention mean everything. If this story moved you or made you think differently about the power of small acts, we invite you to subscribe to the channel so you never miss more inspiring stories like this. Your support helps us keep sharing real moments that matter, and we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below to tell us what resonated with you most, or share your own story of kindness and second chances. Let's keep the conversation and the compassion going.